How was he holding the knife and all that stuff? I couldn't
You know,
see.
it wasn't very clear for me either. Apparently, from what I understand, after going back and looking at other videos, is that he had a knife. It was sort of like a machete, about 3 or 4 inches long.
Okay.
How they described it. And he was sort of wielding it at people, like sort of, you know, taunting them with it. And then someone called the police, of course.
Okay.
And then they came and they had pepper sprayed him, tried to get him to drop the knife. He wouldn't drop it.
Okay.
Eventually it got to this point where they shot him. How do you guys handle situations like this within the LA Police Department?
Each situation actually is dynamic. You know, sometimes you have to make decisions in a split second. We're mainly taught to control the situation.
Does control the situation mean if he has a knife and he isn't dropping it, then you are allowed to just shoot him?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. If there's some type of, like I say, each is dynamic. If there's a threat, then yes.
If there's a threat to whom?
To public or
the police.
And or police.
Okay.
Correct.
Are you guys ever given the option of just shooting them maybe in the foot or in the leg in order to just, you know, disable them?
No.
Immobilize them. So you actually have to shoot to kill.
Correct. That's what we're taught. Okay.
So you guys are not able to just disable somebody. You actually have to shoot to kill.
Well, we have to stop the threat. Okay. It takes. We already train in many hours of training with our handguns, special weapons, things like that. To strategically shoot someone in the foot or something like that requires extreme amount of training, and it's not effective. Okay, if you're trying to stop the threat, trying to shoot at a leg or something like that is not used for the fact that it's not a. If you can shoot them in the foot, that means there's something else you could have done without any life-threatening force. Okay, there's what they call less than lethal options, which aren't as deadly, but could be, you know, used.
Are the police in the LA Police Department equipped with taser guns? Are all of them equipped with taser guns?
Certain units are, and it's just certain units are equipped with them.
So not every police officer has a taser?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That was one of the things that was brought up in this situation in New York, is that they felt as if the officers should have just tried to tase him. And from what I understand, reading some of the comments, not all the officers are provided tasers. So sometimes the only option is to shoot.
That is correct, but out of my personal training and experience, you have to get within a certain distance of a person to use a lot of these less than lethal options. We're not trained. If someone has a machete or knife or something like that, we're not trained to tase them because the threat level is too dangerous.
Okay.
You'd have to come.
Yes,
from what I've seen,
yeah.
people, a knife does a lot of damage real quick.
Yes.
And it only takes a split second. And we're not really paid, or shall I say, trained to accept taking the what's the words the risk
of loss of life
or great bodily injury.
All right. Let's move on to something else that's even more prevalent right now in the news, and that is the Chavis Carter case. Have you heard of that one? This young kid, I believe he's in Arkansas, actually. 21 years old, has a record, as a drug dealer.
Okay.
That's neither here nor there.
Okay.
Considering what's happened. Now, this kid was pulled over. There's 3 guys in the car, 2 white, 1 black.
Okay.
They allowed the 2 white kids to go. They kept Chavis. They searched him. Didn't find any weapons on him. They found drugs in the car. They allowed him to be not handcuffed the first search, and then they went back and searched him again and found nothing on him, supposedly, no gun, no knife, nothing. And then they handcuffed him to take him to jail. Now, somehow when he's in the backseat of the police car, he's shot and killed. His mother says that he's a left-handed person. The police are saying that he was shot in his right temple. Now, most people know that a right-handed person would shoot themselves in the right temple, not a left-handed person. So, in your opinion, could a suspect who is double locked, I believe is the term, handcuffed behind their backs, actually access a gun wherever they hid it? If it was in fact hidden, could he access it and shoot himself in the head?
That's not enough facts, but just to answer about that particular situation.
Yes.
But just given the bare minimum of what you're giving me, that doesn't sound in line. It's something's missing out of that whole scenario.
Can you explain to us what does it mean to be handcuffed, double locked? Like, what does double locked mean?
Okay, double lock, basically when you're being handcuffed, it stops the cuffs from going any further. It can't move tighter. Normally if you don't double lock them, the cuffs are locked when it initially goes on someone, but the more they move around, they hit up and bump up against something, the locks, the can become more tighter, actually.
Oh, I see.
And it's actually to protect the person that's being restrained.
Okay.
However, it also doesn't allow someone to easily unlock it as well.
Can a cop search your car and person if they only pulled you over for driving suspiciously, which is what the officers claim is the reason for stopping the car Chavis Carter was in?
Once again, each case by case scenario. There's a limited amount of investigations that you can do. Now, I would have to ask and find out more detail, because once you initially pull someone over, okay, the driver, what were their actions? There are certain movements that are called affirmative movements that are in line with either someone trying to conceal, whether it's drugs, guns, something. So I don't know what those officers observed at that point. Okay, that's one observation. Another would be, okay, when he walked up on the car, were there things that the officer noticed? Did he see any type of contraband or weapons or anything like that? Did he smell anything? That would lead him to believe that there's a little further investigation. And each different states and departments have different policies and procedures. And then you do have your federal guidelines as well, which you have to adhere to as well. So it's just not enough information for me to make a correct comment on that.
Let's say that I'm driving and maybe a police officer sees that my plates are expired, my tags are expired.
Okay.
And he pulls me over. Now, the only thing from what I understand he can do is cite me for a ticket. Is that true or no?
Then, like I say, yes and no. Okay? It all depends on what after the contact. If it's just a regular expired registration, there's further investigation of, how long or how expired are the tags. If it goes over 6 months, you tow the car, impound the car as well, which in the long run, you will end up searching the vehicle because you have to inventory everything that's in the vehicle. Absent the initial officer safety issues or his initial observations, plain view, smell of something, if it's just a regular traffic stop, no other traffic violations were observed, there's still officer's discretion. If they feel for officer safety reasons, they could place them temporarily in their patrol car, but not actually be arrested at that time, pending further investigation.
Have you ever searched a suspect and missed something on them, like a knife or a gun?
I haven't personally, no.
Okay. Is it possible that could happen, that an officer would actually search a person twice and still miss something as obvious as a gun or a knife?
Honestly, yes, it has happened. You have that human error, the human factor. I can personally say from personal experience that a lot of drugs have been missed due to the nature of the feel of the contents, the packaging. And I've had someone, it's a term called keister, which means that they hide it in their rectum. After I've done a full search, take them to the jail, the jailer goes through their search as well. That's why there's several searches.
But would you agree or not that it's much easier to hide drugs like marijuana or even crack than it would be to hide a gun or a knife, even in your keister?
That is correct because of the bulkiness. However, from my training and experience, they have weapons, guns that are so small that it could fit in the palm of your hand. Really? Literally, a one-shotter.
Okay.
There's other dangerous weapons that are masked to be regular items, such as belt buckles are very popular now to be hidden, and they're actually dangerous weapons. Necklaces. There's things that it's a lot of bad stuff out there, put it that way. But just a regular handgun doesn't always happen, but yes, it does happen. If there's multiple suspects, you just want to do what they call a quick precursor search, which means that you're patting down for weapons kind of in a general sense of where most people would place weapons. Sometimes there's places on your body that people can conceal weapons that aren't always initially searched on what they call a precursor search.
Okay. Generally speaking, do you think that officers are quick to shoot?
No. I would like to think that as time goes on that the departments various departments from LA to New York, all police agencies should or has been trying to deal with the public in a better sense by placing a lot of policies in place to try to cut down on a lot of that. But I do know that they, on the upper division management, they are putting in place a lot more training, a lot more tactics than what has been used in the past.
Is that to sort of cut down on so many officer-involved shootings?
Yes, and everything.
So then that's acknowledging the problem. That's acknowledging that there is a problem. Why is it that more than one officer will shoot one suspect. Like for this guy in New York, for example, there's one suspect. There's 10 different officers all shooting him at the same time. Why is that?
Okay, that is a great question. And there's several factors that play into that. There's a lot of adrenaline that's going on at that time of a shooting. A lot of times people can become tunnel vision. Okay, they're seeing a threat, and if they feel that their partner's life is in safety, or in danger, shall I say, or themselves, they have the right to, to stop the threat. There's things called contagious fire, okay, that's been addressed, and that.
And what is contagious fire?
Means that a lot of times, if you have just a lot of adrenaline pumping and going, and then if you have a threat, we're not talking about that particular situation with the man with the knife, but if someone else, say, has a gun,
yes,
you hear pop, you know that person is pointing it towards either you, your partner, or public. You don't know if that actually round came out of your gun, out of the suspect's gun.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of them may go on, they hear it and they feel it's the threat. Now we need to handle it.
If a suspect is running away from an officer, how can he justify shooting a fleeing suspect?
Well, once again, that goes on department policies. To each department is different. For the department I work for, their policy is that we don't shoot at fleeing felons. But there are certain factors that you may shoot at fleeing felons.
Such as?
Okay. Known to be a dangerous felon to the public at large. Great example of someone would be someone like, I believe his name was Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
Yes.
Okay. He's been known to, go in people's house, do things and still get away. Those are exceptions.
Okay.
But there are exceptions like that. That's one example. Let's say you see two male blacks, okay, walking down the street, and civilian sees them, two male blacks, don't think much of it. All of a sudden you see police car swoop in on them, and they, detain them.
Yes.
Well, a lot of civilians, without thinking, they're just messing with these guys. They weren't doing anything.
Right.
Well, being in law enforcement, there's more than just what meets the eye. So I'm talking from personal experience now, where I was off duty, and I was with some family members, civilians, and they had actually made that comment. We saw this happening.
Okay.
It was in mid-July, very hot. They say, they just messed with them. They weren't doing anything. Correct, they weren't doing anything at that particular moment, but what I observed was these two male blacks had heavy jackets on, and that's not common, or it just looks out of place.
Right.
Big, heavy jackets, and I think it was 80, 90, 89, 90 something degrees.
Okay.
Then you don't know what kind of radio call that they got, description. Did someone just get robbed 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago?
Okay, so this brings up an interesting question. Let's say that there was no call.
Okay.
In an instance, and you just see two black guys walking down the street.
Okay.
And they have on heavy jackets, and it's extremely hot outside. Do you, as an officer who may be suspicious of these people, actually have a right to stop them and question them, even though there hasn't been a call that they've done anything wrong, and they're just simply walking down the street? Do you still have a right to stop them just based on your suspicions?
Okay. That in itself, no, would not be enough. However, police officer has the rights as well as a civilian. If I want to get out and talk to these individuals,
Talk to them about what?
whatever you want to.
Like?
You can ask them, why do you have that big jacket on?
And do they have to answer you?
They don't.
Okay.
Um,
Do they, if you ask them their names, do they have to give you a name?
no, they don't.